So let's get started. My name is Carsten Isert. I recently joined Google and I'm building up an Android auto engineering team in our Munich office. And today I'd like to introduce you to our activities in the automotive space. Google's vision is to provide a safe and seamless connected experience in every car. So on one hand, that means for the drivers, they can seamlessly integrate their digital life also while they are driving in the car. And on the other hand, it means for you as developers, you don't lose people when they are in the car because people spend a lot of times in the car, and you can provide the services you are developing for those users also while they are on the go. For this, we have two solutions. The first one is actually been around for some time. It's called Android Auto. And this is, the software will be running on your phone, so you can see this phone here to the side, and it connects to the car via like a USB interface or Wi-Fi, and it lets you use the apps and the functionality which is running on the phone in the car. You can operate it with the touch on the screen of the car or the rotary controller and so on, but all the software, the connectivity is running on the phone. We have this in the market already for quite some time. We communicated some updates for this at I/O, and we're going to extend this and integrate this into Assistant and so on. And we already have 36 markets. We have basically every brand and every model supports this now. And we have way more than 50 million cars worldwide where you can use this and connect an Android phone to do this. But on the other hand, we have Android Automotive OS, and this is going to be our focus today. So in this case, the software like Android is no longer running on the phone, but it's running inside the vehicles. So this gives you much more influence what you can do on the car and basically what you can control for the car, and it gives you a much better integration. And no phone is necessary anymore. When talking to our customers and user surveys and so on, we basically discovered those 4 main use cases. So people want to get guidance getting from point A to point B. They want to stay in touch with other people, do phone calls, do some messaging, consume media, music, audiobooks, and so on, and of course also want to control what's happening in the car. Today I want to very quickly in this lightning talk run through how you can design, develop, test, and distribute for automotive. I mean, this is the generic process, but there are some differences that you have to consider for automotive. First of all, when you design for automotive, there is a huge difference in screen sizes, in controls. There's a lot of complexity how to do this. And basically with Android going into this space, we try to take a lot of the workload to make this work. Basically provide generic solutions that you as developers don't have to worry about all of this. So we translate this into generic APIs and templates and so on, that it's much easier for you to work on this. However, while driving, it's always important to consider that the primary task for the driver is to actually drive, have the eyes on the road and make sure that no accidents happen, and all other things are secondary. So this is a huge responsibility. Unless we're going to self-driving cars, of course, then the whole story switches, and we're also working on this with Waymo, but that's not our discussion today. Today we want to develop things that are basically in the market right now. The first vertical we want to open for application developers is media. And with this, we basically, again, as I said, provide you some guidance on how to do this and basically develop your media service specifically for this automotive OS. When we look at designing for automotive, there are those 4 points that are mostly important. We need to design for driving, we'll go through the adaptive framework, go voice optimized with like the integration of assistant, and do like a hybrid approach where we both allow you as developers to have your brand recognized, but on the other hand, it also has to integrate with the overall user interface from the OEMs so that it's kind of a true brand recognition. When we design for driving, it's important to keep the information in a way that it can easily fulfill this secondary task requirement. So that you just have to glance over there and it's immediately visible what you want to achieve. Of course, on the other hand, it's also like the areas have to be big enough so that you can touch them easily. If you have like very small buttons, that's just not going to work. So there's always a minimum size and you just have to reach over very easily and operate this. Distractions are also should be avoided at any cost, also like videos and so on. And overall, we encourage that the hands are always on the wheel. The adaptive framework basically allows you to not worry about all these different screen sizes. So we put requirements in our Android compatibility that allow us again to specify these templates in this framework so that if you specify some generic elements, we can render them depending on the screen size and still have a good appearance. I already mentioned hands should stay on the wheel. One easy thing to do this is to use voice recognition and voice operation. So we provide like speech to text and assistant integrated commands that are available within the car. So of course, also the cars will have connectivity and so on that you can easily operate assistant. And then we talked already a little bit about the brand recognition. You have the ability to design your application item, provide some accent colors. So for example, the accent colors are usually defined by the OEMs. And then there are some predefined icons and labels, but you can also define your own labels and customized actions. So that's basically already taken care for you. If you then specifically design a media application, I want to walk you through those 6 steps on how to do this. And again, yeah, first of all, you need to define your architecture and provide icons and labels for each top-level item. I'll later have some more specific examples going into the structure for this. Then you can have basically right now you have either like these grids or list elements depending on the content that you want to display. In the next step, you can define your custom actions and the relevant states. So you can look here the items with like playback elements, backward, forward, and so on, and above them the customized actions. Then, as you can imagine, usually when you have your phone, you can do an easy sign-in process. You just have your phone in your hand and you can sign in. If the application is running in the car, this no longer works. So you have to sign in the car because there's no other way to do it. And there are certain ways to do this with like username, email, Bluetooth, PIN, and so on. You can use either, but we recommend to make it as easy as possible. And we also recommend to use the dark mode to do this. And it's important to know that we disable sign-in and also settings while the car is driving, so that's only available in parked mode. And for the customer operation, usually people tend to go into their cars and want to drive away as quickly as possible, so there's not that much time to actually do this. And it's really important to design it for the user so that they can easily use it. I already talked about settings. So you want to have some settings where you can like have account information, specific settings for driving modes, and you can also put in your sign in and sign out functions. There again, we recommend to use the dark mode here. And then we have specifically, again, the branding elements. As I was talking about, the application icon, the navigation icons, labels, and so on, so you can provide those. The accent color is defined by the OEM, and then you can also design your own control elements. So, to recap, for the media apps, it's important to design for driving. We provide you this adaptive framework so that you don't have to worry about the different screen sizes. In general, you can use Assistant to do a voice-based control and optimized for driving. We allow you to have your brand recognition with these specific icons and elements. And overall, designing like an automotive app is fairly simple. If you want to have specific questions around this, we have like UX guidelines for automotive. I would definitely recommend whenever you want to develop some application that has to do something while you're on the move, this is a good way to go, where you can just look up, okay, what are recommendations to design for something that is like a secondary task. After we've been talking about the design, I want to go now into the development. So developing for Android Automotive OS is very similar to developing for Android Auto, which is, like as I mentioned in the beginning, the phone-based solution. So in general, there are not that many differences. Like the first steps are basically exactly the same. And then there's only the third service which you have to do specifically. But again, we try to make this as easy as possible for you. So initially, you have to build your audio media service. Of course, this is like where you connect the app to the backend and do all the business logic. So that's kind of course, you have to do this yourself. We have some examples online with this UAMP media player, where it's like you can download it on GitHub. That's like a basic template for a media service, but that's kind of where you put your business logic. You will have access to a range of Google Play services, but as you can see, not all of them. So we explicitly removed some of them, like games. We don't, or we cannot have games in the car, like not on the front screen, because of like all this driver distraction and a range of other ones. If there's anything that you feel particularly interested in, or say, yeah, for my use case, I really need this, please come to talk to us. Yeah? So we're still in the learning phase and ramping up those activities, and we start with a baseline, but we want to extend this ecosystem to be able to provide a lot of the applications that we mentioned before. And also like bring in your ideas. So like it lives really from the support of the developers and from this ecosystem. As I mentioned before, like here you can see like some template for the sign-in process. So in black mode or dark mode for automotive, the specific screen, you will also have like a different keyboard and so on in the car that allows easier entry. And the user experience is adapted.